What can you then do once you get this back? If you have it before, there's a rainy day coupon for each of the first 2 exams, which allows you to correct 10% of the value of the points on that exam and resubmit it on Wednesday, which I will then look at again, and maybe Amber might do that. She likes the rainy day corrections, we'll see. But you can get 10% of your exam grade back. So if there was one question on here that was giving you a lot of agita, making you sick to your stomach, you can think about it again when you get it back on Monday, or Tuesday, Monday, and resubmit it. So the assessment's not dead right now. It looked like a lot of you were getting hung up on the number 7 part A. And that wasn't my intent. My intent was not to make that the hardest problem on the exam. That was the one about the Democrats and Republicans and their approval ratings or disapproval ratings. I think a lot of you were overthinking that one. All I wanted you to do was to look at the percentages of Democrats and Republicans. They gave you percentages, right? Before the shutdown it was blah, after it was blah. And the point is the percentages went up. So in the Democrats' case, it went from 56 before to 61, so a 5 percentage point increase. And Republicans, it went from 63 to 74, which is an 11-point increase. And I said, which margin of error would lead you to believe that Congress in general, which is Democrats and Republicans, are more disapproved now than before? So your job was just to look at those margins of error and apply them to all 4 of those statistics. And when I say apply, what do I mean? It sounds more convoluted than it actually is. Add and subtract. That's what just put 1% on the percentages and add and subtract them, make the new interval, and see if they what? If they overlap, there's no statistical difference. If they don't overlap, there is. And all you had to do was do that for all 5 of them and see which ones didn't overlap. If they didn't overlap, there's a statistical significant difference. And you can claim that, yes, they're worse now than they were before. And for some of those, I forget how many, some of those they didn't overlap and some they did. That's all I wanted you to do. That's it. That's all I wanted you to do was to run it. So if that's the one that gave you agita, just redo it on Monday and get it right. And that way, why do I care about that kind of stuff? Besides the fact that I'm a freak, why do I care about that kind of stuff? Because, say that again.
It's relevant.
Because it's relevant, Michael. It's actually your lives. That was pulled from 3 days ago or 4 days ago from Gallup. Jack just mentioned about getting sick more in the summer. Maybe it's crap, maybe it's not. Maybe there's actually been a study done that tracked number of bacteria in the air, and the only way you can believe their statistical significance is to make those intervals. And see. Jesse will claim, wherever Jesse is, that maybe practical significance isn't statistical significance, or vice versa. But that's okay. Statistical significance can be measured. You're not as excited about this as I am. That's okay. It's understandable. It doesn't mean it's not important in your lives. It doesn't mean that you guys aren't making decisions. How many of you guys have taken ibuprofen for a headache? Why do you do that?
Because it works.
How do you know it works?
We're told it works.
How do they know? Why would you believe them?
They didn't study.
Because they have money.
They get money.
Oh, because they get money, because why? Because they create drugs that work based on studies, FDA-based studies, that show you things work. We'll actually analyze a couple of those in here, some of the FDA studies. All right? How many of you have taken Airborne for a cold? Don't anymore.
It doesn't work.
Don't anymore. We'll talk about why in this class too. For the exact same converse reasons. Okay? I shouldn't say don't. Take whatever you want to take for your colds.
I think I have it in my purse right now.
That's okay. I think we still have some in our drawer from 15 years ago.
I took a microbiology
But
and it just got rid of a ton of things I used to do.
Well,
A lot of it doesn't work.
and all of it's based in statistics and what does and what doesn't happen. And there's so many reasons why something might not be statistically significant. It might just be that the confidence intervals overlap and we say we can't decide. It might be that the confidence intervals don't overlap, but the data is absolute garbage. So even though they're not overlapping, the data is so bad that you can't believe it anyway. That's the Airborne problem. We'll come back to that one. Yeah? Anything else on the exam? Harrison brings up a good point. I had a quiz posted for today. Thank you, Harrison, for asking me about this. It's on hypothesis tests and the intro to hypothesis testing. In my mind, when I was kind of scheduling, I try to schedule the quizzes out a week in advance. In my mind, we were going to be done this and going over it before now. So let's push that quiz back to next week, and I'll put a second quiz up if you want as well. I'll put 2 hypothesis testing quizzes up for your guys optional if you want to do both, one, both, or neither. So whatever quiz is due today, we'll extend that due date out a week. I'll actually put a second quiz up as well, all on this intro to hypothesis testing stuff. So thank you for bringing that up, Harrison. I appreciate it. And I think he asked a very, very good question, which will be answered here in about 30 seconds. And it has to do with what hypothesis testing is and how it compares to confidence intervals. Because they really is saying the same thing. And in my opinion, in my vote, I would just use confidence intervals all the time. Like, I would just adjust them. I would adjust the one-sided left, one-sided right, or two-sided central, like the ones you guys are calculating all the time, but I don't get to make the rules. I just follow the ones that are in play out there. And out there, sometimes confidence intervals are used, sometimes hypothesis tests are used, and sometimes they're used in tandem. And we'll see what I'm talking about that as we go through the course. Other thoughts on the exam? Other thoughts on the exam? How are the first couple questions? Pretty much just circle the ones that apply. Anybody give the extra credit a shot on that first one? Yes, good, very good, very good, very good. Hopefully I've said the answer to that enough in class that you remembered it.
What was the extra credit?
On the very first couple, it was like, explain why I used the word generally in number 1, but didn't use it in number 2, or something like
Oh,
that.
that was extra credit?
That's extra credit, extra 3 points. Oh, I'm sorry, if it says extra points, that's just extra credit, yeah. Yeah, so if you gave it a shot, because you thought you had to, that's okay
Thought I had
too.
to.
Yeah, anything, I try to sneak those in every once in a while, extra 3, extra 2, just, you know, if you guys are paying attention, which you all are, and you remember stuff, which you may or may not, I figured, what the hell. It's a slight, what I try to treat the extra credit stuff is, it's that like extra 2% accuracy that you really don't need to understand the main ideas of the course, but if you understand that too, it's just that much more of an enrichment of the study of statistics. So anyway, how were the LSAT scores? The LSAT question? Bunch of LSAT tests, good, decent. How about the Tea Party on the backside? Besides the pain in the ass with the interval, having to set up the, picking the midpoint. Is that okay? You guys did, okay. Please, Jack.
Yeah, margin of error on that one, or?
Margin of error on the Tea Party one?
Yeah.
It just popped out on your T interval, gave it to you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, calculate it off the salaries or off the?
Well, it's a great question, and it brings up a systemic question. Jack's question is, do you construct the margin of error off the salaries or off the, and then he stopped asking the question. Because there's only one data set there. What's the data in that problem? Salaries. What are the other numbers?
How many people fell in that
Frequencies.
category?
That's not data, it's how many people fell in the categories. Your margin of error is always based off your data. That's why you always do, remember in 243, 1 bar stats? Even though you had 2 columns sometimes, the second column isn't data. It's number, is that the heater back?
No, it's something, I don't know, it's like
Someone's up
echoing or
there.
something.
I'm not quite hitting, who's taller? Anyway,
Start throwing some.
we're always, up until the very last project in this class, we're only dealing with single variable statistics. Univariate. In other words, there's a string of data. All that table is a convenient way of reporting, so you don't have to have a list of whatever it was, 100 plus salaries. That's all that was. Cool? And that's why sometimes you'll run numbers and get what you think are very strange answers. It's because you're looking at the data and realizing what you think it needs to be. Getting numbers back from your machine that's completely not in agreement with that. And that's good. That means you should go back in and look at what you entered to make sure. Because I don't care how you get the results. It's irrelevant to me. What I care is that you know what the results mean. That's what I care about. That's why I don't care using technology. Use your smartphones if you want to. The smartphone's not going to help you interpret the answer. That has to go from up here. Yeah? Yeah? Good? Alright, so you'll get those back on Monday, Tuesday, next class. And then you can do the rainy day coupons, fire those back to me on Wednesday, and then I'll get it back to you the following week. So the assessment never really dies, it just keeps going on for like 2 weeks. Yes, Rosie?
I don't think in my 95 class you have the rating days and multiple exams. Is there one for each?
There's one for each exam, except for the very last exam, which I won't see you again afterwards. So we've got one for exam 1, one for exam 2, plus the project one.
All right.
Yeah. Try it. It's just my way of A, making you guys look at it again, and B, rewarding you for looking at it again by offering points, which I think makes sense. Speaking of exams, remember the other part of your exams due on Tuesday as well, the outer class part. You guys got a chance to look at that a little bit? Crunch away at it, good. Is the link working for those of you that have used the link already? The Hutchon link, the one with the conference, go get some nods. Got some nods, good. Some of you are like, what link? Please.
I have a question about that link. So
Yes!
you have to put in A and B.
And C and D.
I forget what that is, and you said already.
Don't worry about it. And after class, we'll talk more about it, Eric. A and B and C and D are the successes and failures for each of the two groups.
Oh, okay.
So you've got a number of, and when I say success, remember success isn't a good thing necessarily. I think in this case it's type 2 diabetes cases.
Right.
So success, type 2 diabetes in the control group, not type 2 diabetes in the control group, type 2 diabetes in the, is it Lipitor I think on that one?
No.
Lipitor group, not type 2 diabetes in the non-Lipitor
I
group.
got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's what those go, that's what, it's a 2x2 contingency table, just kind of like we did in 243 back in the day. Run those in, boom, and then it pops out the conference interval for you.
Right on, okay.
Cool? Yeah, that's all it is. And if you guys get stuck with that, take a screenshot, email it to me, I'll be more than happy to look at what you're entering. Use your resources, use your resources. Just don't wait till Monday night to do it, because it might lock you out if all of you go to that page at one time. I haven't gotten any hate mail from hutchon.edu.co.uk, whatever the hell the address is, so I don't think they mind me using their web link, but let's not push the buttons too much. Cool? All right, so remember that's due on Tuesday.